Thank you, Patty, and thank the GCLS for inviting me to be a special guest speaker. If you think you were surprised to learn that, your surprise was nowhere as large as mine. And I found myself wondering what could I talk about that would be both interesting, entertaining, and instructive all at the same time. And then I wondered, how did I get to this point? And that became the magic question. Um, all of us who are writers have become writers because of certain reasons, certain paths that we've taken. And then I came up with the title of, well, who put the pen in my hand and the attitudes in my protagonists? Um, there's nothing profound in what I have to share with you today. The information might be new, but simply because some of it is personal. The conclusions I've reached probably apply to many writers. I hope you'll relate to the underlying premise of my presentation and find that some elements of it fit you as well. When I think about my experiences with writing, I come to two conclusions. Number one, while the act of writing seems to be natural for me, I haven't arrived here in the world of writers without the strong influence of others. And two, without doing so on purpose, I've created protagonists whose attitudes and behaviors reflect four basic values to which I am wedded. These are the four values imbued in my protagonists: persistence in the face of obstacles, engagement with the realities of gender, race, age, sexuality, and others' expectations, achievement, and kindness. Let me share with you a few of the people who influenced my values and encouraged me to write, as well as some of the events which shaped my protagonists' attitudes. My parents, Thomas and Lorraine Bess, there was little about my father's childhood that would have predicted a successful adulthood. His parents divorced when he was quite young, and his mother left him to be raised by an aunt in Cleveland, Ohio. During his teenage years, a temporary reunion with his father, who had remarried and was living in Philadelphia, went totally off the tracks. So he remained in Philadelphia and supported himself via part-time jobs while he finished high school. By that time, the United States had entered World War II, and my dad enlisted in the Army. He earned his commission at Officers Candidate School, not an easy task for a young Black man during the 1940s. He was deployed to an island in the South Pacific, following that deployment, and with the rank of captain, he was honorably discharged. My dad was passionate about electronics. His passion, talent, and drive elevated him to the position of supervisor of quality control in a corporation that produced telemetry and communication devices for unmanned and later manned space vehicles. Not a small feat for a Black man during the 1950s and early 1960s. My dad was our family's bedtime story reader. He also invented tales right on the spot. He enjoyed reading, mostly technology magazines, but sometimes novels. During the final weeks of his too brief life, he was reading And Quiet Flows the Don, written by the Russian author Mikhail Sholokhov. For a while after he died, my mom left that book atop the side table next to his chair in our living room, and I can still see it there. My father enjoyed poetry as well. Here are two of his books which I've kept: Poems from Flat Creek, written by Herbert Clark Johnson, a young poet who served in the Army with my dad, and Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. I believe my dad personified persistence and achievement in the face of many obstacles. And here are three of my mother's childhood books. My mother grew up in a middle-class family in West Philadelphia. Her parents surrounded her with books and provided her with every assurance that she'd go to college. While she wanted to become a high school teacher, her reality was that in Philadelphia during the 1940s, Negroes were not permitted to teach in secondary schools, only in elementary and junior highs. My mom read every night after she finished grading papers. The only rooms in our home that did not have books were the bathrooms and the laundry room. She had my father assemble a bookcase whose shelves surrounded the TV screen. And as a result, to this day, whenever I see a reference to certain book titles, I can visualize the author's name. The Vixens, Frank Yerby. Greengage Summer, Rumer Godden. Exodus, Leon Uris. A few years prior to her retirement, my mother was assigned to a senior high school where she taught English. My mom modeled the values of achievement and persistence. As you might guess, I was encouraged to become a reader. Early on, I became smitten with the protagonists of Dr. Dan the Bandage Man, and it didn't stop there. Here are some of my early favorites. I liked listening to the Mother West Wind Ware stories. I guess you could say they were an early introduction to books on tape. My grandmother gave a monthly subscription of the best in children's books to my sister and me. Those books were an introduction to Reader's Digest, which, by the way, we were discouraged from ever reading. My sister and I always received books at Christmas. I tore through every Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys book from their first year of publication until 1960 or so. I didn't much care for the Cherry Ames series. There was just something about her ultra femininity that seemed over the top. Two books that kept me company between 8th and 9th grades were A Tree Grows in Brooklyn and The Catcher in the Rye. Any rough edges awakened by J.D. Salinger were softened by the empathy I felt for Betty Smith's protagonist. From grades 9 through 12, I attended the Philadelphia High School for Girls, an all-academic, single-sex college prep institution whose principal always greeted the incoming 9th graders with a salutation and a question. Welcome to Girls High School and to the 9th grade. To which universities are you planning to apply? When I was in 10th grade, I began writing poetry, and I submitted 3 poems for inclusion in the school's literary magazine, Calliope. The faculty sponsor, Mrs. Emma Grossman, returned them to me with 3 words emblazoned in red on the cover page: not good enough. I rewrote the poems, resubmitted them, and received a 1-word rejection: derivative. I didn't make a 3rd attempt, but I did begin to understand the concept of persistence. To her credit, Mrs. Grossman had a tremendous amount of knowledge about foreign literature. I discovered this when I took her year-long, twice-weekly world literature class. This is a transition slide whose purpose is to ease us away from those who put the pen in my young hand to those who influenced my adult writer self. This is a little French cat